Okay, for this is Corey Cantrell, and for my think aloud and reading behaviors, I chose the story Stone Fox, and started right away with the cover as I started going through the process of things that I noticed that my mind latched onto right away. And on the cover art just stuck out to me because the little boy and the farm did cause me to think about the fact I lived in Iowa and grew up in Northwest Iowa, and it reminded me of a lot of little kids running around there, or even the childhood that I had running around in fields with my dog and doing those things as a kid. But I also was drawn to the house in the background, and it did cause me not only to think of childhood, but also adulthood and the landscape that we live in, where we do see a lot of those houses that now are sit empty. But this is a time period that house still had life in it and still had activity on this farm, and really liked that initial image. I also latched onto the title right away. Stone Fox caused me thinking about the story Stone Soup. That classic folk tale kind of exists in lots of different cultures, and made me wonder if I was going to be turning the pages to a folk tale. I purposely didn't look anything up or do any research for this particular book. I wanted to go in cold, and now I'm wondering, am I reading a fairy tale or a folk tale? As I kind of go through and got to page 3, that's labeled here, and it was titled Grandfather, and right away the second paragraph says that little Willie lived with his grandfather. So it did cause me to wonder about the situation. Is the farm multi-generational? Does grandfather live with the family, or are his parents gone and grandpa is who he has left? But also they pointed out how the potato farm in Wyoming is a lot of fun, but a lot of hard work, and it did remind me of my own life and that fact that I did enjoy the farming life and the farming world, but at the same time I didn't really enjoy baling hay and scooping manure, but I enjoyed that freedom of the outdoors, so I could relate to that. As I kept going down through, got to the next page, and Grandpa getting up early did remind me of my own father getting up early and being the first one down there to make breakfast, and I always found him sitting at the table. But then it did cause me to question when it said that he had to make a fire. So now I'm wondering the time period. Are we early 20th century? Or are we late 19th century? But it did kind of have a cozy feel to it, the fact that he had to make that fire to have breakfast in the morning. And then the next paragraph, I circled in green because it made me laugh a little bit. The disciplinary method to remind him that he needs to make sure he gets up and he's on time. And the way he did it was to give that breakfast to the chickens. And I kind of laughed at the image of the chickens picking away at the plate. But the boy did learn and learned a valuable lesson to be places on time. But as we kept going through the reading, we encountered a scary circumstance. And that essential question that he asked, or was it? What a realization for the young man that he may be in a situation that he doesn't know how to handle. He may be very scared here. But I did wonder where he was running to. And it made me wonder about the age of the boy. Up at this point in time, I didn't really know. And I wondered if he's so scared that he's panicking and just running off, or if he does think this is some kind of a game. And he thinks Grandpa's going to come find him, so I'm not really sure where he's headed at this point in time. But then as we get to the next paragraph, I found it interesting to use the dog to connect to the age of the child. And now we discovered that he is 10 years old, and I do believe he is scared. I do believe he is confused. But then in the next paragraph, you find out where he is running, and he is quite intelligent. There's no 911 in this situation, so he runs for help, and he has arrived at a doctor's home. And so as we go down through this, I was confused at why the writer decided at this point in time to take the time to describe what the doctor looked like. I'm not sure that's really important here. It seems like we have some additional things that were kind of unnecessary to the story. So as I got down to the bottom part, I kind of felt frustrated for the young boy, as the doctor is just kind of putting aside his thoughts and his feelings and not really recognizing the situation is scaring the kid, or Willie, until we get to the top of the next column. The doctor all of a sudden realizes the circumstances might be different here, and caused me to think about, why was music the catalyst that got the doctor going? Is there something more to the grandfather and this habit he has of playing music? Is there a reason that that's his habit? Is there somebody previous from his life that maybe he played music for? Is the harmonica from someone else? And to break that habit means we have a problem, and cause the doctor to get up and move, and maybe the doctor knows something that the boy just doesn't. And so the next part that I marked or found myself finding as an interesting thing is it took me this long in the story to just notice that the name of the dog is Searchlight, and how funny it is that I read the sentence and reread it because it said Searchlight ran out ahead leading the way. So we have a searchlight leading the way, but it's actually a dog. I kind of chuckled at that, and a good choice for a name for that particular part of the story. And then when we get back to Grandpa, previously I wondered if he had actually passed away, and the boy just didn't know how to find that out. And now we get to him and his tears in his beard. So there is life in Grandpa. And now the boy is being a typical 10-year-old. And it might be an emergency or difficult situation, but he is still filled with questions. And I can relate to that with kids in my own household and family, and all the things that he wonders about as the doctor is working. So as we move on to the next page, I did find the doctor's line of questioning a little confusing to me. Why is he asking a 10-year-old about owing money or the crops? The 10-year-old's confused, and I'm just wondering why. Does the doctor think that he's trying to die because he has debts he wants to settle, or making sure the farm is in line? I'm not sure she really believes he wants to live at this point in time, and I'm not sure she knows how to explain that to the child. So as we went to the next page, we find out he's extremely healthy, but then we also find out, no, this doctor is not good at describing to a child what is going on. I really thought this was horrible when we got to this paragraph, and the doctor just said, "Oh, your grandpa doesn't want to be alive anymore." I was confused by this, and I'm scared for the 10-year-old, and the doctor made it even worse in this, and so I'm wondering why. It's straightforward. It bothered me a little bit that they did that. And then we go to the next paragraph, and it's revealed to us that the grandfather is not only alive, but he's listening, because tears are now rolling down his cheeks. So it seems as though we have some type of depression going on, and it hasn't been revealed to us at this point what it is. So I'm wondering what placed him into this state of depression, and why is it that he is just laying there not speaking, and what is going through his mind at this time. But we do know there's life in him, and it's confusing to the boy as to why his grandfather, that seems so happy and likes to play games with him, would lay there and not want to live anymore. And so he begins to name all of the good things that are available for him. So when we get to this last little part of the story, little Willie does make this declaration of being able to bring his grandfather back, and he'll find out what's wrong, and he will cause him to want to live again. And there's this little line of hope where the dog barks loudly. And so when I reflected on the whole chapter, this book kind of made me feel like a little Where the Red Fern Grows going on here. There's a little triumph, there's a little tragedy going on, there's the connection between the grandfather and the grandson, but it seems like it's going to be the grandson that's going to get Grandpa going. And so earlier it made me wonder if I was reading a folktale, but now that I've read one chapter of it, it feels more like I might be reading some realistic fiction, unless it takes a drastic turn and goes in a different direction. But I feel like my earlier prediction is not true, and and now we might be dealing with something that's a little more realistic. So that's my wonderings and my wanderings as I went through this particular time with this first chapter.